Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of most ages. Hello, welcome to Friday Night Live with myself and Scott Goyette, where we bring to you the people that we can ask the tough questions of in order to help you with your mindset, your positive growth, your momentum, and things that you need to accomplish in order to be kick-ass successful. And we bring you a show every single week, whether it's Scott and myself or a special guest, to really give you tangible action items that you can take away, that you could actually implement into your life. That's the most important thing. It's one thing to watch these programs. It's one thing to listen to a podcast. It's one thing to go to a seminar, but it's another thing to actually take just one thing, not even 3 things or 5 things. Just take one thing and say, hey, listen, I'm going to really focus on this. And tonight we have an amazing guest for you that's going to be dropping, I'm sure, a lot of great information, truths that you can actually take action on after this show and in your life. So I'm really excited about that. But I'm always welcome to add to the photo here, Mr. Scott Goyette. What's going on, Scott?
Oh, it's a good day. It's a very good day. I'm glad to be here and I'm excited. So
it's a good day. It's a good day. Yes. No.
Should I do Boston today?
No, I can't stand. I fucking can't stand Boston.
Dude, seriously, I can just go full Boston today.
No, well, at least you're a guy. I mean, my wife has a friend. Her name's Julie, and she's from Boston. And Julie from Boston, and
she like from Revere Beach, and she wears her hair really big and stuff.
I have no.
She's
idea.
Probably wicked cool.
No. But she's not watching this, so I'm not even worried about it. But yeah, no, she's cool. She really is. She's super cool. She's super cool. But, anyway, how's your week been, man?
It's been good, dude. Very good. You got a new cup, didn't you?
I got a new cup. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Just because I speak my brand, this is a special limited edition cup, courtesy of my wife. She actually got tired of me stealing her cup. So so we got a little cup for the show and just stoked and having a drink. So we hope that you guys are having a drink. So Scott, talk to us about our guest tonight.
So I'm a massive fan, and we talk about the same thing, that once you extend your sense of self, what happens is, when you don't look at the world as it's Scott versus the world or my tribe versus the world. Once you start to just look at humanity as just one whole, these beautiful people start showing up in your life. And you know that this has been happening to both of us. This woman is one of those people where, she came to me through a referral that, hey, you got to talk to this person. And we started talking, and, a good 2 hours later, we're still talking. We're like, I guess we have to go eventually and go do our work. And we've already recorded one podcast together. One of these people that you just know, you've known this spirit since the beginning of time. And so to tell you a little bit about her, she grew up with everything you could possibly want. Her dad was the founder of the Sheraton Hotel Chain. So, she was in the nicest hotels, seeing the world, doing all the things that a lot of people, think would bring them happiness. But that's not where she chose to find her happiness. And we'll talk about that. She had all those things, but she found it based on her own true brilliance, all the things we're preaching. So after her dad sells the whole hotel chain and her dad passes on, she ends up marrying Frank Perdue. And so Frank Perdue, in his own right, is an amazing human being. And so we're going to talk about that. But long story short, so she comes from a lineage and as an heiress to everything from the Sheraton hotels, as that was sold, and then the Perdue chicken company. And that's a huge empire in itself. And she's still one of the most modest, amazing, beautiful human beings I've ever met. And she gives me hope in believing that as we grow and we gain wealth, whether it's, intellectual wealth, friends, financial, whatever it is, that she teaches us how to give back to the world and do beautiful things when you have so much. So you hear the word abundance a lot. What would you do when you have abundance? She's going to tell us. And this is my beautiful friend, Mitzi Perdue.
What a joy to be with you guys. And I love it that we're all having an adult beverage. Woo-hoo.
Yes. Cheers.
Yeah, you'll see a different side of me tonight.
I love that, actually. Yeah, because I think we talked, the last time we talked, it was probably noon. It was a typical, podcast interview. So now we're on Friday night. So
I'm loving it.
It's happy hour. So how are you doing, Mitzi? It's so great to meet you. And we had talked a little bit before backstage, but thank you again for being on our show and just sharing your brilliance. When Scott recommends somebody and says, hey, we got to have her on, I was like, let's do it. Let's do it. So I'm excited to free fall into conversation with you and learn from you. I saw listened to your interview with Scott and was really captivated by,
thank you.
Your ability to draw on different experiences throughout your life and give them a different perspective that most people wouldn't. I really find that fascinating. I look forward to diving into that tonight. But how are you doing overall?
Well, I'm so happy to be here. I hardly know what to do with myself. And by the way, I haven't really started drinking yet, so it's going to get better. But
awesome.
but I love the idea of a happy hour and talking with people that you really like about things that are important. And on the subject of happy hour, my sister gave me a wooden plaque, and engraved on it was, "Wine is the proof that God loves us and meant us to be happy."
I've seen that before. They always have it at vineyards, when they're selling stuff on the walls. I love that. That's awesome.
I think we have a few of those in my house. My wife's a wine drinker. She's a total wine drinker. I wish I like wine. I cannot stand wine. I've had expensive bottles. I just am not a wine person. So I'm a Jack Daniels person or a vodka person. So it's funny. We got all these wine things around here, and every once in a while there's a Jack Daniels thing. Actually, my Jack Daniels mirror is up here because it got kicked out of the pool room downstairs. But
I've heard that Jack Daniels, if you're into the keto diet, that Jack Daniels is for you. Have you heard about that? That it has calories, but it doesn't metabolize them like carbohydrates.
He actually loved what you just said, because we were just talking about in the next few weeks of getting back onto a keto diet, dropping sugars, doing it. So what you just said to him, he's like, I can have Jack Daniels?
No, I can't. No, actually, it's quite the opposite. No, actually, it's quite the opposite. That's the funny thing about it is right now I'm having Tito's and Diet 7-Up. So actually dark colored alcohols.
Yeah.
And for me, because I used to drink rum and stuff like that. So I noticed when I drink dark alcohols, it affects me much differently than when I have, Tito's. And I love vodka, and Tito's is like one of the best at least for me. So when I have this, there's a total different feeling about it. There's a total different sleep cycle that I go through. No, Jack has always just been my thing, just to relax, just to get me from off the ceiling. I mean, you're going to see me and see, I'm like, brrr. So it's like probably over the next hour, maybe there's not enough in there probably.
Okay. But I need to know
a little bit.
Is it correct that Jack Daniels and the keto diet are friends?
So
I don't think so because I believe that there's sugar in there. And yeah, I mean, alcohol definitely on the keto diet. No, I think you can have a little bit. I mean, we do a hybrid of it. It's my wife belongs to some program, not Pampered Chef, some other thing. No, Slim Helping Mama, Fit Helping.
If you were going with 0 carbs during the day, and that was your carb, and you stay under I think it's 80, depending. We're bigger dudes, so I mean, I bet you could have 2 glasses of Jack Daniels, but you got to be careful that you don't want to just blow out of ketosis on that one. You don't want to.
Well, I found that 40 grams does it for me, and
that's probably about right.
And
probably about right.
But anyway, I love keto. I gather you guys are on it.
I'm not right now, but I cycle it. I do it. And when I do it, one of the great things about it is you're getting all the healthy fats, and it definitely affects your brain. So for me, I notice that I'm thinking more clearly. I'm stronger, energized. My sleep has been good either way, regardless lately, but I definitely feel more alert mentally when I'm on keto.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, I am not all the time keto, but it feels so good that I'm highly motivated to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm terribly disappointed that Jack Daniels isn't the answer. Oh,
I know. Trust me. So is their stock, because when I do my little vacations from alcohol, their stock drops 20%. But no, actually, I'm going camping next week, not this coming week, but a week from next. So yeah, there's going to be a few bottles of Jack and a few bottles of Tito, and then September 2nd, probably till Thanksgiving, clean living, and then destroy it again. But anyways, at the time of this taping, we are still going through the COVID situation throughout our world. We've been going through it since March, and at the time of this taping, it's now July 31st. So tell us, Mitzi, how have you seen and dealt with this change in our life? Because I mean, obviously you've been through a lot of different things throughout your career and your life. Talk to us about how this kind of implements into your life and some of the things you've learned and you've grown from it, or things you could share with the listeners.
I'd like nothing more. I was aware of the coming pandemic because of an odd circumstance, but somewhere around 2007, I made friends with a family from China. And, this is a great blessing in my life, but I got to visit them for a couple of weeks every year, which meant that in the course of 10 years, I made friends in China, which meant that I had sort of a give me a second.
No worries. No worries. Yeah, no, it's not COVID. It was the bong hit she took before we came on camera.
Now I'll confess to all our friends that I gave you my choice. In here is Listerine, or a couple of capsules of it. And the point of it is it kills the tickle of a cough. And I thought, which would be more fun?
I said go with
Listerine or wine.
I said go with the wine.
Okay, but the terrible truth is Listerine kills the cough faster. But back to
tidbits already.
Back to China and what COVID-19 has meant to me. I had a really distant early warning system of people from China who are telling me, there's something absolutely spectacularly terrible that's escaped in our country. And it's, COVID-19 doesn't respect any borders. It may be heading your way. And I can remember there was a period of like almost 6 weeks where I was telling my friends in this country, something really bad is coming our way, and nobody took it seriously, with one exception. And are you familiar with Mark Victor Hansen?
Oh yeah, Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Chicken Soup for the Soul. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records for selling more nonfiction books than anybody else on the planet. He and his co-author. And I told him, we're friends. We've been friends for a while. And I told him what I was learning from my friends in China. And he may have a different version of this story, but here's mine and I'm sticking to it. I said, you're one of the most inspirational writers in the whole world. And my expertise is I'm a science writer. I'm a health writer. But for almost 40 years, I've been writing about science and I've been writing about health. I worked for Scripps Howard, and I had the most widely syndicated environmental column in the country. And my columns were always specialized in interviewing scientists about problems. Well, so I suggested to Mark Victor Hansen, what if we wrote a book using your inspiration and my science background to tell people things that they could do to get through the pandemic? And to my undying joy, he said, yeah, good idea. And he has a stepson who's very tuned into these kind of issues also. And we decided to write a book of 40 tips to help people get through tough times. And after 3 weeks of 18-hour days, at least in my part, it was 18-hour days, we got in print a book, which here's the cover of it.
Nice.
And so for me, COVID-19, it's horrible, but I did have the feeling that I was able to do something that could help people. And I want to share something with you.
Absolutely.
And this is something about Mark Victor Hansen, something that you wouldn't know if I didn't spill the beans.
Ooh, gossip. I love it.
I love it.
Okay, and I've almost polished off my glass of wine, so I'm going to do it. Here's
Raw
the beans,
unscripted, baby. Raw and unscripted. Bring it.
Here's the beans to be spilled. After we had the book in print, and it was in print, we'd finished it like in 3 weeks, and it was in print probably in 5 weeks. 3 weeks, 5 weeks, yeah. And one day, kind of out of the blue, Mark Victor Hansen knows that I have a hobby. I have several hobbies, but one of them is Photoshop. And he said, since you're a black belt in Photoshop, I want you to do something for me. I want you to write a mock on top of a mock-up of the book. I mean, you can take the title, the picture of the book, and then I want you to write across the top of it, more than 1 million copies sold. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. See if they can, does the screen capture this?
Yeah. Yep.
And it's not backwards? Please tell me it's not backwards.
No,
It's not backwards.
Yay. Okay, notice right up
How to
here.
be down and how to be down, right?
Oh!
What a jerk.
Okay, yeah, what a jerk, but we love jerks. I mean, they're just irresistible. All women know that.
There you go, Chris.
Okay, so notice how to be up. Sorry, more than 1 million copies sold.
Mm-hmm.
There have not been 1 million copies sold. And so I'm telling Mark Victor Hansen, I don't want to do false advertising. This is a terrible idea. And he said, that's not the point. It's a mock-up. He said, make 5 copies of it, put it in your living room, your bathroom, your kitchen, your bedroom, the stairway.
Love it.
And he said, the point is you're visualizing it. And he said, just do it and see what happens. And he also, by the way, asked me to make copies for him because he was going to do the same thing. And Preston would do the same thing of putting up this vision of more than 1 million copies sold. And good Lord, like within a couple of days of having this visualization, I got an email from a woman I've never even heard of in Taiwan asking, telling me that she had just bought 200 copies and she wanted to know, as far as I can tell, she is connected with a chain of like department stores or something. And she wanted to know if she could get a discount if she bought 1,000 more for the chain of department stores or bookstores or whatever it is. And I'm thinking, what? Is this, I mean, maybe there really is something to this visualization thing.
Oh, there is.
Okay, but even supposing that were a coincidence, and I'm inclined to believe that it wasn't a coincidence, but there's something else to visualization. And you were talking at the beginning that you hope that I would provide actionable ideas for people. Okay, number one, possibly the best that I can possibly deliver, and it comes courtesy of Mark Victor Hansen, and that is, here's how visualizing more than 1 million copies sold, having that dummy book cover, which I put up all over everywhere, it changes the way I relate to the idea of sales. I mean, because I've actually written 22 books, and to me, 20,000 would be amazing. Never thought of 1 million copies, but once I'm thinking of 1 million copies, my whole mind gets rearranged about all these amazing bigger things. Once you're really thinking bigger, you try for bigger things. And it's a fantastic tip. Visualize what your success will be, and it changes your mind. I mean, I kind of feel that, like, I go to bed at night and there's this idea of selling 1 million books when I'd never thought beyond 20,000 ever in my life. It absolutely rearranges my mental furniture. It's a great thing to do.
That's exciting.
I
It gets
love
the
that.
endorphins going.
Yeah. And
well, so visualize. I'm going to invite everybody who's listening to us or watching us, think what you absolutely want. And hopefully it's somewhat realistic. I mean, I don't want you to imagine that you can fly to Mars or something, unless you can.
Not yet.
Well,
Elon
but think of something that you'd really like, and then preferably write it down so that you can make copies of it and put it all over wherever you live, and see if it doesn't have an impact that's bigger than you can possibly guess.
I just love the fact that you had that number 20,000. You said it kind of, as if you said that before. You're like, I'd be happy selling 20,000. So
actually, I would have been happy in most cases selling 5,000. The best I ever got was 20,000.
So that's just
that was then. This is now.
So when I published a book in 2006, and I think I ordered 3,000 or 4,000. So my goal was to sell all those books. So going to speeches, you sell them after the speeches, whatever. So I literally slowed down at the end when I had the rest of those books, as if I couldn't print more. Because I'm like, oh, I only have so many left. And I was almost like literally going into this, the classic lack instead of abundance. I'm like, I only have so many left. Like, I can just order more. But I literally went into this, well, what if I sell them all? And it sounds insane. And I looked at myself.
No, it doesn't.
No, it sounds insane. Like, when you grow, that's what's beautiful about growth. It's like, I literally laugh at the fact that I'm like, but I won't have any more. Like listen how silly that sounds from somebody who really embraces a growth mindset. Today's me is laughing at that, saying, sell the darn books, order 10,000 more, order 10,000 more. And so what Mark Victor Hansen's saying is so on point. Put something that's, I won't say an outlandish goal, but a goal we're not used to yet.
Well, for me to go from 20,000 to a million, that's pretty outlandish. And yet, nevertheless, why not?
Why not? We're in a time of COVID where the world is looking for help. So there's a lot more people than 1 million people in the world. That's actually a lowball number. I think we need 1 billion.
Well, actually, he told me, be prepared to raise it, because when we reach 1 million, then you redo that book cover and put 10 million. And something else about the book. It's a $20 book, but the 3 authors agreed that we would sell it for the lowest amount that Amazon would consider reasonable, which turns out to be $4.58, because we wrote it to be useful, to help people get through a really, really, really tough time.
Awesome.
Thank you for doing that. So what are the core aspects of what the book, and what can people expect when they read it?
Well, there are 40 different tips, and the book is roughly 100 pages long. And each of the 40 tips is no longer than 2 pages, with the idea that when you're under stress, the idea of reading a great big tome, how about that's not what you need right now. You need something easily digestible and actionable. And for the kind of clue that I have, I'll share the ones that I particularly wrote, or at least I'll share some of them. And one of them that maybe, I don't know, I'm going to guess that a lot of our audience will relate to this. And the reason that I'll guess that they'll relate to it is because so many people have told me that this is their situation. I'm going to ask a rhetorical question. I mean, I don't expect anybody to answer it, but here's the question. Do you feel that your mind kind of isn't as sharp as it was before COVID-19? Like maybe you can't remember a fact as easily, or maybe a name slips your mind, or you go into a room to pick up something and then you can't remember what you went there for. And I'll give you a very concrete example. I have a girlfriend who's a certified public accountant, CPA. We were on a phone call together about a particular charity where we needed to get 1 million face masks for them, but the vendor was selling them in quantities of 50. And if you're a CPA and you're used to numbers all the time, the easiest thing in the world is to divide 50 into 1 million. But she suddenly said, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't do it. I'm losing my mind. I'm probably getting Alzheimer's. Well, I was able to reassure her, and I can reassure everybody else. And this is me as a science writer speaking. When you are under stress, and we can't underestimate how much stress COVID-19 is, because whether it's financial or maybe somebody you care about is ill, or your own health, in one way or another, this is a really, really, really severe stress. And when you're under stress, all these stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, here's what they do to you. They make your higher brain functions kind of rheostat down, and you're all prepared for fight or flight, but you're not prepared like to do higher brain functions like remembering a name or doing math in your head. And so the advice that I have is, you're probably not losing your mind. I mean, the chances in my mind are probably 1,000,000 to 1 that whatever you're experiencing right now, it's not that you're on your way to Alzheimer's. It's that it's the most normal reaction in the entire world to stress. So in my book, or I guess I should say our book, I can relieve one part of stress by telling you, if you don't feel that your mind is as sharp as it normally is, there's a very good reason. And when the stress goes away, your mind will be right back to where it was. But then I want to follow up with a second thing, which is, am I all clear to go with the second thing?
I think so.
Clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff. Okay, here's the second one.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Woohoo. Okay, second, this is sort of a part 2 to what I was just telling about. I've named it pandemic brain. If you're having trouble remembering which day it is of the week, or what your best friend's name is, or whatever, it's almost certainly the result of stress, and not that Alzheimer's has begun. But since we know that stress is happening, what can you do about it? And so this is another one of the 40 tips. And it comes from a lot of scientists, but I'm going to personalize it by telling a story from a niece of mine who runs a nursing home. And I'm going to tell it from her point of view, but there's an abundance of scientists who agree with her. And that is, she's aware that if you're taking care of a terminally ill person, your odds of going to your great reward before the person you're taking care of are 1 in 3. That's how serious stress is. And she said, knowing that, how do you counteract it? And she said, as normal human beings who are caring and functioning in this world, we feel a little bit guilty about what you might call escapism, but I'm going to call respite. Give yourself, without any problems of conscience or anything conscience, give yourself permission to have at least an hour of respite from the worries of the world. And I can't know what gives you respite, but I'll tell you what some of the other people have. Like for me, watching a James Bond movie, I'm not thinking of the problems of the world. I'm thinking of James Bond. But other people I know, what does it for them? I mean, if you're a woman, it might be sewing or knitting or something. For other people, it might be listening to comedy. Actually, I have a huge, I've logged a lot of hours watching Saturday Night Live on YouTube, but things that just you immerse yourself in them, and you're not worrying about that you can't pay your rent or whatever it is that's eating you alive. So almost as medical as necessity, give yourself at least an hour of complete, total respite from what's going on. And during that time, all these chemicals that are like eating you up, they get a chance to sort of calm down, and you will live longer, and you'll be able to resist stress, and your immune system will be better. On every count, this is something that's just highly, highly, highly valuable to do. And I know that both of you are really into physical fitness and exercise. How about this is right up there with physical fitness 100%. And exercise? 100%. Give yourself respite.
Yes. You do. Yeah. You have to take care of yourself. You have to push yourself and stress out your muscles and everything else. But at the same time, you have to rest. I mean, it's so crazy because people talk about meditation. I had a guy on my show on Tuesday. He was like, "Oh, we were talking about meditation." He's like, "Oh yeah, it's easy for me." And I'm like, it drives me actually bananas. But today I sat down, I was like in a lot of pain, and I sat there and was doing my exercise. So I put on my face mask with my speakers in there, my binaural beats, rest and recovery. And for 10 minutes, I just laid on the floor, and I tried so hard to just like not think. And if I got like 30 seconds, instead of just going like, that was only 30 seconds, I'm like, that was 30 seconds. Now I need to get to 31 seconds and relax. But how do you recommend for people to relax who are like me, like just like literally it's more work for me to relax than it is for me to conquer?
Okay. There's a wonderful expression in vino veritas, with wine you tell the truth. I'm one of you. I find meditation, I find it valuable, but I find it really hard work, and I fail at it right and left. And I congratulate you in 30 seconds because I'm probably 10. And so I'm supposed to advise you on what I fail at.
I was like 30 seconds. Yes, I didn't think.
You're a champ, dude.
Okay, but let me try and fake it. What advice I would give on? Nope, I can't. I think it's a worthy goal. I think, what if some people just aren't built for meditation? Because but I started out this particular train of thought saying that in wine you tell the truth. Okay, here's the great big terrible truth, something that I need to work on. But I have several times in my life started at my local gym taking yoga classes, and the poses are difficult and they're hard work, but I can handle that. But then at the end of every one, at least at my gym, there would be a 10-minute time where you just lie down and relax.
Mhm.
And I couldn't hack it. I just
It's Avance or something like that.
well, no. Here's what happened, and I'm not proud of it. But since we agreed that we would tell the truth at this point,
That's what this is
I'm
all
lying
about.
there thinking, how long till this is over? I can't stand it. There's so many things I want to be doing. Please, God, let this end. And so it was not relaxing for me.
That is so beautiful.
So we're not going to do this right now because we've got everybody here, but I want to have a separate call with you guys. In fact, maybe we should invite Mitzi to Mitzi. We're actually having a 12-week coaching program. And so since we all have the same minds, a lot of the things that we've built, it's a group coaching program and it starts in mid-September. It's 1 day a week. You have a few assignments, including meditation. I literally said, I mean, if you knew me at 20, if you know me now and you see me out in the world, even just talking, it's really hard for me to focus. But what I learned through studies and finding the right meditation is, Chris just said something really interesting. He said, I try to, quiet the mind, try to get to this like space of silence. That's not the game. Embrace your noise, sit in the middle of the noise, allow the noise to occur, and just relax in the middle of the noise. There's ways to do it. I'll give you guys some tips, but I swore up and down. I'm like, you can't do it. It's not for me. There's other things I'll do. I don't need your crap. Leave me alone. And I got upset.
That's me. That's me.
Okay, we're not going to do it now because.
Well, actually,
I want to do it
again. All right, you're entirely responsible for everything I say because you told me to drink.
Totally fair.
But we're not going to do more than a glass. But nevertheless, here's the truth. It's worse than just thinking, oh, please, God, let this be over. I start feeling hostile.
Totally. Okay, so let's play with this right now because I know that there's a lot of people thinking the same thing right now, going, that's me. Or
I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to meditate. It's like
it's time. So let's go to one of the real realities. One of the reasons that people meditate is we're going to our mind for clarity. And so we're going to, as people say, remove the noise. Well, here's the deal. When you sit in your own mind and you try to get rid of all that busyness and you just try to go to whatever silence is or truth, that's a really scary thing to sit alone with yourself because it literally every 10th of a second feels like an eternity. So you're sitting there going, you're going, but I don't know if I love me. I don't know if I like me. I don't know if I like who are these people saying this shit? Why are all these things? And there's things just coming. That's what you want to sit in. And so I have a really intellectually sound, insanely spiritually genius friend who said to me, he goes, why do the monks go to the mountains and go sit in the middle of the nowhere to, sit in their own mind? He goes, you want to really challenge yourself, sit in your own mind, quiet the noise in the middle of the chaos. And so he's always challenging me, get in the middle of the noise, be comfortable with your noise, all the noise around you, and learn to just embrace it and love it all. And so Chris and I have actually been having this conversation. One of the things that's really been hurting me is I've come to such a space where I'm elevating so much that my latest struggle has been all my judgments have surfaced. So I've literally come to this like cleansing where the people who are in my understanding or people who have, stepped into a space of the light where we can connect, I love them like crazy. But if it's somebody that I'm like, why can't you see that? I'm getting extra irritable with them. And it's actually like, I don't feel good about it because here's the deal. If I'm 2 steps ahead of you and see something that you don't see, then it's my responsibility to not be condescending, in my opinion, and to serve that person. And I'm taking a lot of deep breaths, and I'll be honest with you, like my love is growing for humanity, and there's a lot of good coming from this, but I would not be able to do it without those meditations. And so what I'm getting in those meditations, I'm sitting with my own noise, I'm sitting with the voices, I'm sitting with the, why is this person this way? Why is this person that way? And I'm just owning it. I'm embracing the emotion that I'm living with, and I'm moving through it, and I'm moving forward in service. So I just want to just say this very simply. Once you can get to that space where you can sit in your own noise, which we say we can't because the truth is we don't want to, there's an insane beauty in there. I'm telling you. I'm
open-minded enough to be eager to try it. All I can say is up to now I've flunked.
No, and I love that. And yet we just haven't done it yet. And that's what I said too. We're seriously, let's not do it now, but the three of us are going to get on a call and I'm going to go through some tips that have been shared with me that have worked for me, because it's the super ADD brain of just accepting the noise and sitting in there.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know if I can really describe myself as super ADD, but I think I am.
I'm ADD, I'm ADHD on crack. Every doctor I've been to, once I found out what ADHD was and that there was actually an adult version of it, I've been to 3 doctors and they have been like, holy crap, dude, you are like off the charts. But it's so funny. But you know what, in thinking about, meditation, what's gotten me to this point in my life has never involved meditation. It has always involved engaging in all those thoughts and acting on them. Although sporadically, I mean, I have 3 books done that have never been published, but I mean, so to me, there's validation. Like I think Mitzi said it great. There's validation in the fact that if you can meditate and you can do that, that's great. But maybe for the rest of us, we just grind. I mean, that's who it is. And we're Gary Vaynerchuk. We're just grinders, and we get to that because literally when I sat down, I was like mad. I could not. I'm like, Chris, just be quiet. And I'll be like, okay, that was 5 seconds. I'm like, then this thing popped into my head. It was like,
so here's a question.
Try to relax.
So let me ask you a question, Chris.
Sure.
I want to say, do you want to be calmer? Like, do you like, here's the thing. If you had a choice right now, would you like to be calm for a moment where the noise wasn't as extensive? Like, would you want that?
That's actually a crazy question, Scott, because when I think about it at first, I was like, yes, I want it. But at the same time, it's scary because I've always been that driven person. Like my coach said, Sally, that, I mean, she's always like, dude, you've always been in survivor mode. So survivor mode is for me. It's like, okay, you're always accomplishing. We've had those conversations. Like recently, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm raising my kids. So I don't see tangible results from my actions. I don't see like, okay, I invested 20 hours and I got this client, or I did this, or I did this. Now it's just totally changed for me. But you know what? Yes, I do want that. But at the same time, I've done medication and it took my creativity away. It took my spark away. And then I stopped it because I was like, I don't want to run from that.
I don't want you to go any further than that. Hold on. You immediately went to the word driven. You equated drive with the noise. And I don't know if you noticed that. Yeah. But the second you said, I want to be, you like the fact that you're driven. This is for all 3 of us right now, and anybody like us who is a high energy person who has a lot coming in at once and has a lot of downloads, the drive and the noise, they don't need to, they're not in sync. You could literally have the same exact drive. I mean, a more intense drive that's more focused. Now you just said it, like you've got 3 books, you got this, you got this. One of the things that, and Chris knows what's been going on with me lately. I've been saying, hey, I can't do this. I can't do this. I've been doing a lot of hiding from people where I don't usually do that because I've really been like figuring out exactly that where can I keep this drive with less noise, with less on the table, and still having a massive amount of efficiency to serve others. And what I'm finding very quickly, and I've seen other people do it, is I can be 50 times more efficient with way less effort, the same amount of drive, and I can actually block out some of the noise and choose the voices or the messages or what is being, I'm not a pro at it by any means, but I'm seeing the results of it. And I believe that you guys would benefit from the same things. And I'm just throwing it out there.
Let's do it. I'm up for it. I mean, you describe a kind of paradise.
I'm starting, Chris,
it sounds scary.
I'm starting to feel it. It's scary as hell.
Oh, okay, scary paradise.
Yeah,
no, it's scary, but the benefits are there. I mean, like we're selling this to other people. We got to believe. Listen, the massive shift in our mindsets to assume that if we can reduce some of the noise and pick and choose what thoughts we have and still have the same drive or more efficient or better is more than possible. It's what we should have been doing from day one. Okay, I shouldn't say that. It's what we can do from this day forward. What we did in the past was what got us to this point to grow, but we can do even better. And that's the fun part of the growth mindset. What's up, Thomas?
Thomas, hey, y'all. It's great to be alive. That's my mindset.
Be alive.
Hell yeah. Shane, what's up, Shane? Our brother Shane is here from Speaking to the Heart Network, our network that we have our shows on, Raw and Unscripted, and the Awakening You. Are you more comfortable in chaos? I think a lot of people are. I think they
I'm,
really
I'm
do.
afraid I am.
I think
I'm
if they don't
afraid
have
it
chaos, they create
energizes me. But do you know what I'm absolutely loving? I kind of thought that it was my own private vice that that meditation was so difficult. It's very reassuring to hear that other people have trouble with it.
I
One of our
almost,
dear friends,
I almost
Pamela,
quit
says,
many times.
she says, we get addicted to the thrill of drive, but we can find a much bigger high in the quiet. It's really terrifying at first, but it blows your mind. Yeah.
Heck, oh my God, yes.
If you get my mind quiet about drugs and alcohol, I'm probably dead. But I mean, that's actually freaky for me because I've done medication. I've done that. I mean, I was on Zoloft for a little while. I'm like, I don't care if people hang themselves or whatever. I'm like, no big deal. But when I'm off it, I'm like, no, please don't. It was so crazy because it took what makes me out of the equation. So that's kind of freaky to say, okay, you know, I've been trying meditation for so long. Like maybe I'm just not a meditation guy. Maybe I'm just an action guy. Maybe I'm just the one that's the fired up one that's just supposed to be spun and going like crazy. And
meditation is not medication. Medication numbs. Meditation enlightens. Listen to that again. Meditation is not medication. Right. Medication numbs. So you're assuming the same effect and you're thinking they're one and the same. When you meditate, it's going to enlighten. So the medication where you get numbed and you feel like, hey, whatever happens, it's okay. And then you're like, oh my God, this is taking away my being. You're going to highlight your being. And think of this, like, you know, Miyagi, like where it's like, you're like, how do you like do blindfold fighting? That's what it is. Everything slows down. So for example, okay, when you think you're numb, it's just going to be just the opposites. Things are going to start to slow down enough that all of a sudden everything just feels okay. And so you're not going to feel anesthetized. You're going to feel so connected, but it feels like it's in slow motion, but it's moving in regular motion, and it's just easier. That's it. That's literally it. I mean,
well, I would love to give it a second try. And you give me a lot of encouragement. Can I just take another hit of my
pot real quick?
What was that?
I'm just kidding.
What'd you say?
I don't even smoke pot.
No, but you said that it's not about having your mind completely quiet. It's about embracing whatever is coming. And I could handle that. It's the quiet mind I will happily admit to the whole world that I'm 79 years old, and I have tried for years and years and years and years to meditate. And as I said, I flunk, but I'll give it another try.
Bring Patricia's back up. I saw something in there.
I was going to wait until she stopped talking.
You'll have to wait forever.
No. Patricia is one of our dear friends, dear family sisters.
The start of it, and I knew it was good.
Patricia is phenomenal. Period. End of story. I'm trying not to swear this whole entire episode, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that.
Okay, so let's read that out loud and clear.
Experience emptiness. You must go beyond your ego's addiction to a limited sense of self. Learn to taste the lightness and expansiveness of your mind. Bang the fuck on.
Sorry, slow clap.
Yeah.
Everybody take a drink.
To experience emptiness, you must go beyond your ego's addiction to the limited sense of self to learn to taste the lightness and expansiveness of your mind. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the ego. You know, I mean, the ego is it almost seems like a necessity in such a way, but to breed into confidence. But what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, is ego good? Is ego bad? Is it, I mean,
necessary?
Necessary. However, my sister, who she's 82 and is one of the wise women of the world, and she has a view of ego that it comes from Mother Teresa. So what I'm saying, attributing to my sister, she attributes to Mother Teresa. That to the extent that you can empty yourself of self, there's room for higher and bigger and better and more spiritual things.
100%. No, you're right on point. And I think one of the things that we do is think of it as a human being, okay? While we're still living on this planet, we've got a morph of heart and mind, or ego and superconscious, or whatever we want to call it. So right now, when we're sitting here in COVID, let's just use this as an example. I can sit here and say, these conspiracy theories, these people are doing bad things, what's wrong with these people? And I can sit in my analytical mind, or I can come into my heart, and your point, and you just said it beautifully, Mitzi, and your sister really gets it. I can come into my heart and I can say, this self of Scott is one small entity in existence. The three of us are another entity. All of our listeners are another entity. Everybody in the US is another entity. We could keep going. But at the end of the day, that has to start with heart. That doesn't come from here. So the ego, the analytical mind, the creative mind can allow us to start to really think and process, hey, what's going on? Like, how do I interact? How do I write this book? How do I do that? But our heart is going to be the connection piece. And I think that one of the things that happens is anytime there's any kind of stress or whatever, we tend to run to the egoic mind. And as soon as we get to this space, like think of this right now, and we were talking about the meditation piece. Let's say right now, and I'm going to give you a visual, and this is something that the three of us will do later. And this, maybe we have a class on this with everybody, but I don't want to do it now because there's processes, there's things we got to do, and I'm not ready to do that. But visualize what this would look like. So right now, okay, we come up with, there's a bunch of people with different conspiracy theories. If some person has a different political issue, this person's saying this person's religion's this, and I'm just feeling really frustrated. I'm processing it right here. What if I went into here and I sat into a meditation where all those things are coming in, and all I did was just send love out to all of it. So I sat there with all the noise and I just sent love out to all of it. Okay. And so even though I don't agree with it, even though it doesn't make sense, and one of the things I talk about in the fear model, and we're going to talk about in our coaching program, is accept others and yourself where you're at in the journey. And I've said since I created this model, this is the most difficult part for me because I could feel my emotions and judgment coming up. But when I sit in the noise of my own mind and I go into these meditations, I sit and I just fall in love with the other parts of existence, the other perspective points, every other being, whether it's Chris or you or anybody on this show or people beyond. Yep. And even though I'm frustrated and there's an anger or a sadness or why are you thinking this way, I just continue to love them and I'm working through it because it's my shit that I'm dealing with. And so that's what I can help you guys get to the space, because I've been doing this for a while and I've also been working with a spiritual coach to help me amplify this, and it's working. I mean, it's working. I've had it. It's helped me for a long time, and I know it will help people who have said, "Oh, that's just not for me." I mean, I would say anytime you say something's not for you, there's a good chance that it's for you.
I get that.
Exactly.
Oh,
but you know, that makes me relate to something that I heard from an Asian woman. I met her and we correspond frequently. She lives in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. And she's a family business consultant throughout the world. I mean, family businesses come. And the reason I come to her is she asks people, say you're making a will. And she asks people not just to think of the law, but how does it make you feel? How does it make you, visualize how you think you've gone to your great reward and your kids are opening your will. How does it make you feel? And she says there's a vast amount of data that is not really accessible through logic, but is available through the heart. And she says that over and over again, when people approach questions through the heart rather than through the mind, they come to more sustainable decisions about how they're going to dispose of their property or issues with their wills and the structure of their estate. But she said, deeper than that is ask yourself in almost anything that you do, are you coming from a place of fear or a place of love? And if you're coming from a place of love, the odds of it's coming out healthy and constructive are just infinitely better than if you're coming from a place of fear.
Totally. Without a doubt.
And so the woman's name is Patricia Wu. And
oh my God. Are you kidding me?
Hong Kong, Patricia Wu?
I worked with her in Cambodia. She's from Hong Kong.
Yeah. Okay, I love this woman dearly, but it's so influenced my life because of the conversation that I just described. It was probably a couple of months ago, but there have been cases where, say, I interact with somebody that under normal circumstances, I might be leaping for their throat. And instead I start thinking, coming from a place of fear, what if I tap into the love and all the anger, just like a fog, it dissipates.
So beautiful.
Mm.
So beautiful.
But you knew Patricia Wu.
Swear to God, yeah. No, I'll show her. I'm Facebook friends with her. Yeah.
So,
no, we
Hey, well, mentioned her.
So Mitzi, have you ever heard of this book?
It's at
Mickey Singer, Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul, The Surrender Experiment.
I guess I better read it real fast.
No, I mean, it's exactly what you're kind of talking, what we're all talking about is that separation from mind versus soul and really trying to capture that and just attach to that. It's so crazy because I wasn't sure what the conversation was going to be tonight, and it's so fascinating for it to drop into this. And Patricia, again, who is an amazing person. Meditation is a practice, a technique, like mindfulness. You focus on the mind on a particular object, thought, or activity, and train attention and awareness, and achieve a mentally clear and emotionally calm state.
Yeah.
How do you do that, Patricia? It is a practice, and you just have to, like anything else, you can't give up. I mean, if I go 30 seconds, if I go a minute, if I go, 3 minutes, I'm like stoked. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to get to 10 minutes. I'm going to get to 15 minutes. I'm going to get to 30 minutes. I'm going to keep going. It's just so crazy. I mean, she says meditation is a simple, secular, scientifically validated exercise for your brain. And even Pam said up here about it. Meditation is like time travel. Your spirit is taking in a massive amounts of information in a fraction of time it takes in real time. I'm
getting excited.
I want to feel that. I want to experience that.
We're going to play with that. And I would love to invite Patricia in because I'm sure her wisdom is insane and immense as well. And same thing with Pam as well, because so they nail it. And here's the thing. Imagine this, right? Like right now, like I love what she was saying about time travel. You ever see a fly when a fly's young and they only have like a couple days to live and you can't catch it with your hand? It's impossible because they're living existence where their second is, a different time than yours. So they're like, boom, 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 boom. And then like 2 days later, before it's about to pass away, you can catch it out of the air and you cannot kill it. You can put it out the door. And I always do that. I'm like, I tell Kim, she goes, where's this one in its life cycle? Because we don't kill. We've got a very Buddhist mentality. I've got my big Buddha tattoo and everything. So we don't hurt animals or anything. So I wait until it's easy to catch. I catch it and I place it outside without hurting it. But there's a time where I'm like, I can't catch that because it's so quick. I can't predict its actions. And so it's the exact same thing. You make time stand still. So when you're meditating, all of a sudden, all those thoughts, everything will literally stand still. And you will literally be in a space where you're saying, oh my God, you feel it's almost like we can go to that space and then I could say, welcome home. And you'd be like, thank you. And all of a sudden it's all okay. And the thing is, you'll still hear everything, but it'll be much more simple and easy to process and not noisy. Then it's almost like you're in a library and you're like, I will listen to this thought now. I like that thought. It's a whole different thing. And there's different ways we can do this game, but to the point, her point was beautiful. You just focus on one thing, allow everything to go on around you and not worry about it. So many people go and try to quiet the mind. That's exactly what turns off anybody with an A personality or a fast moving mind with a lot of thoughts. You say there's no way you can do that. And here's the answer. You don't need to do that. That's the misinformation from somebody who try to teach you to meditate, in my opinion, incorrectly early on. Because that's what I got. Quiet the mind. I'm like, have you ever been in my mind? If you can quiet my mind, it's going to take a rifle.
Oh, okay. So I got to share this. So this is so funny because my wife, God bless her soul, doesn't understand me sometimes. And
Humans.
And my ADD thing, ADHD on crack, that's what I call it. I mean, I can see now through counseling and stuff that we've been through how much it impacts her, because I just think it's something I'm dealing with, but my impulsivity and all this other thing, she's the one that's like going, okay, hey, dude, I can think about one thing at one time, leave me alone. And so we walked into a Best Buy, and I swear to God, I looked at the back of the store. You always walk into the department stores and you see the TVs.
TVs, yeah.
And the TVs are all on the same picture. And I look back there, I'm like, And the first thing I thought is like, that looks really cool. These, 75-inch TVs or whatever. And it's all in the same picture. And I'm like, wait a friggin' minute. See, I did it.
I saw you do it. You did good.
I know
we all noticed.
I'm like, no. Wait a fucking minute. Sorry.
All right.
I'm not sorry. No. And I went, wait, I got it. And I told my wife, I said, watch. I said, look at all the TVs. And she's like, yeah. And I said, isn't it cool how they're all on one thing? And she goes, yeah. And I said, that's the way I see normal people, quote unquote, normal people, that they can just focus on one thing. I said, now imagine there's like, I counted them out. It was like 17 different screens. I said, imagine 17 different screens, all different pictures, and the volume is up at 12, not 10. The volume's at 12. I said, that's my brain all the time. All the time. I said, I can tell you how many people are in my peripheral vision right now and what they look like.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. And like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. It just happens. That's how my brain works.
Yeah.
I can sit there and detail things like in 2 seconds and figure it out. I said, but that's my brain. That's what I'm dealing with. And when I said that, she got it. And then I told my ADHD doctor, I said, if you ever heard this analogy before? She goes, no. And she goes, I'm going to use that. And I said, do. I said, because it's totally freaking perfect.
Yeah, it's right on. No, I have the same brain, dude. I like when my students, like if we're in a class, one of the things that I always find interesting, I'll break like the groups into 4 or 5, the class into 4 or 5 groups. And I'm literally like talking to one group, I'm like, hold on, Chris has a question. And I'll catch it out of this air, hear everything while I'm fully present here. And then I'm like, hey, whoa, hold on. Sandra doesn't understand what she's talking about. And I'll go over there and everyone's like, it's almost like I'm like this Superman. It's just the way my brain works. And it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's a thing. It's how I live in this existence, how you live in this existence. But to the point, imagine if you could come to a space where you can focus, center, and ground all that, and then go use that superpower. And that superpower is no longer a hindrance. And that's exactly what the point is we get to a space where we almost become annoyed by ourselves because of the cycle. If you can just temporarily just step out of the cycle without dying and then come back, that's kind of what meditation is. It's like we remove ourselves from the noise. We're in the noise, but we remove ourselves from the sense of the noise owns us, and then we step back in. And that's where the power comes from, because now you don't see it as a debilitation that I can't get out of this noise. You see, oh, I just have access to more info. Does that make sense? Or I have access to more perspective points or more ways to process different things at multiple times than others. And then it's a superpower versus something negative. And that's the school system that's done that to us. Remember when you were sitting in school and someone's like, listen, why are you talking to somebody else? Why are you doing this? What's wrong with you? We heard it as negative, right? That's the bullshit. And I had to say that. Sorry, Chris, I got to throw it in there.
Yeah, no. It's so perfect that you say that, because the one thing you said it wasn't bad, but I have learned in my life, because I could literally do that. I could literally be typing, listening to somebody and watching something and get it all. And I'll be like, and like, you're not paying attention to me. Like, I heard every single word you said.
And you want to punch him in the face.
And
I'm like, not the truth.
But that's what I've had to learn from a perspective shift. I'm about perspective. So I'm like, wait, I just told you what I heard, but what they are feeling, not what they're saying. What they're feeling is that you're not listening because you're not looking at me. Yeah. So I've had to really learn, like, okay, wow, I could do 75 things right now, and let me just look at. And I've learned it, part of it, from doing these lives, because I have to sit here and look at the camera. Like, there's so much going on in my office right now that I have to sit there and just focus on that. So I just sit there and focus. I'm like, let me just pay attention. Let me just listen. And I think if aside from the meditation part, that's one of my big things. And Scott, is like, if we just take a moment to listen to what people are saying, really listen and seek first to understand. There's so much going on in the world right now. I want to get your ideas on this, Mitzi, because obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. There's divisiveness, and at the same time, I see a whole lot of love. Go love now. I see a whole lot of love. I've been on the walking trails every morning, and people are super nice. People are doing what they need to be doing. I mean, everywhere I go, people are super cool. It's like we're trying harder to be better. And then we see whatever this encapsulated view of the world is on Facebook or the news, and we think that the whole rest of the world is like that. And I don't even believe that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I see a huge disconnect between what I watch on television and what I see among my neighbors or just people I interact with. In fact, people of different ethnicities, I have the feeling that we're more friendly to each other than ever, because have you had that experience too?
Yeah.
It's as if we've peered into the abyss, and no, we don't want that. We want to love and embrace each other. I mean, people
Without a
Like
doubt.
when I go out for
Without a doubt.
walks, I live in a neighborhood where there's an abundance of diversity, and people who never were waving and smiling before, we do it now. And I figure it's because we don't take it for granted. It's very encouraging. But then I want to bring it back for just a brief second to the book that I wrote with Mark Victor Hansen. I was in television for 8 years, and it was in Sacramento. And the Sacramento station that I was part of, it was the CBS affiliate. And they were part of $1 million study of what kept people glued to the television. And what they learned, or at least what I walked away with from seeing this study, was that if what you're watching is distressing, or it makes you scared or upset, if it gets your palms sweating or your heartbeat rising, you may hate what you're watching, but it's really hard to turn the channel. And so their conclusion was that if you want your advertising dollars and you want people to stay tuned in, have stuff that is deeply upsetting and divisive and worrisome. And I hate that. I mean, I hate the whole concept that to get an audience, you have to scare them or make them angry or revulsion. But I now believe that an awful lot of television programming is really designed to make you upset and miserable and off kilter. And so I personally recommend that you put if you're upset by the world's news, I mean, if you just roll with it, great, God bless. But if you're like me and it upsets you deeply, for myself, I put myself on a 15-minute a day diet. No more television news than 15 minutes, if that. Nice. And actually, it's probably 3 minutes by now, because I just think, what benefit is it for me if I get all riled up and upset and mad at everybody? It doesn't do anybody any good.
Exactly.
So there's the $1 million question, because we all know this, okay? Right now, I'm pushing the Go Love Now challenge, and I'm asking everybody to go out and create videos of some way they spread more love or bring kindness into the world. And I don't care if you're my best friend, my mother, me, it doesn't matter. It's so hard for everyone to go put these videos out because we're so focused on all the negative things we got to argue with people about, or the problems we got to solve, that we don't find the value in just bringing love into the world. We're so stressed, like you said, your palms got to sweat. You got to have the amygdala firing. You got to have the fear senses. Everything's going to be like this negative. And what I want to figure out is, how can we get the world to fall into or fall in love with the concept of your power of love? Because you said it, we've said this a million times. Does it come from a space of love or a space of fear? Now, most of what we're doing, and here's the funny thing, let's peel back the onion real quick. Everyone on one side of the political spectrum is saying, oh, a bunch of sheep, they're afraid. And the other group is saying, oh, a bunch of sheep, they're afraid. If you really look at it, both groups are afraid of something. They're afraid of the other group. They're afraid of what's happening. What if we infiltrate the middle of this with love? And that's what Chris and I have been talking about trying to do. Mm-hmm. And I won't even use the word try. We're going to do it. We are doing it. And you're going to be part of that team too. We're all going to do it. But man, it's exhausting when the resistance has a weapon, and the weapon is people love to be addicted to fear. They love to be addicted to negative.
We're wired that way. We're wired to respond to a threat.
I agree with you. So we are wired that way. We're evolving as a being and a collective conscious of one greater sense of self, like your sister would agree. Like we're this one extended self. So we can't rush it. We've got to, everybody's got, like, it's that accept yourself and others where they're at in the journey, that fear component, I'm talking about in my fear model. So what can we do to shine our light so bright that those who are in a space, and I don't want to say darkness, but those who are in a space of misunderstanding or in a space where they're addicted to fear, how do we shine our light so damn bright that nobody has a choice? And again, let's go to the fly. The fly, it's all a time perspective. We want it to happen yesterday. All right. We've got an eternity of existence because we're spiritual We're spirits living in this physical being. But how do we accelerate the process so we can make this happen? So together we can rise up and just be in a space of love instead of fear. I mean, that's what I want to figure out right now. What can we give to our listeners to help them with that process? Because I doubt there's anybody here who does not want to accelerate that process of getting out of that fear space and into that love space, regardless of political affiliation, regardless of religion. We all want to go to a place of love. What do we do?
Mitzi.
What a big question.
I know we do that. That's what we do.
But I do have an opinion.
Hour on that.
You can take a break first. I mean,
I mean, look at this. We have so many great comments. I want to go back to what Joe said, because I can identify this as an auditory learner. I typically turn my head when people are talking, so my ear faces them. Then I have to remember that they need to see my eyes. Brilliant, Joe. I do the same thing. I was like, huh? And like my left ear is way better than my right ear. But yeah, no, it's so important about that fact of connection.
But I'm identical. It's very hard for me to look people in the eyes because the world comes at me through my ears. But I still wanted to comment on the how do we
my eyes.
I can't. Well, as long as I can hear you.
Yeah, no, I mean.
But I have an odd situation, which is I spent half time in Salisbury, Maryland, which is very rural and how about conservative politically?
Okay.
I spend half my time in New York City, and my friends there, how about every one of them has completely opposite views from my friends in Salisbury, which means that I get to hear both sides on a very regular basis. Wow. And I certify they're all wonderful, great, lovable people, and I adore them. But as far as I can tell, there's not a lot of love lost between the two groups.
No.
But how can I mean, I'm almost scared. Say I'm in New York. It's really hard for me to tell the people in New York what I hear from the Eastern Shore of Maryland and vice versa. I mean, how about I'm a coward, but I'm not sure it would do any good to defend the other side in either case.
So how do you?
I'm not saying this with pride. I'm saying this with puzzlement.
No, I agree. It's a hard one.
Process that. I mean, that's the same situation that I'm in that I struggle with. And Scott and I were talking about that earlier, is the fact that I can see different sides of an equation, because I have learned that really when you change your perspective about something, you can change the total trajectory of your outcome. And it's like your perspective. I can sit there and go, okay, I don't agree with that person, but if I have been in all their situations and all their belief systems and everything else, might I be just like them? Yes.
Guaranteed.
Okay, so
if you had their sources of information, were surrounded by them, that's what you would, I think, what you would believe.
Yeah.
For the most part. Yeah, no doubt.
Okay. And I would like to add for the most part, but in general, I think that's what happens.
No, so I always look for anomalies. 9 times out of 10, if people grow up in the same exact situation, they're gonna have the same exact beliefs. And then the thing with, like, I'm always that anomaly, so I always try to check myself. You know, I went to a private school that was essentially all white, a couple black kids, maybe one Hispanic kid, a couple Jewish kids, and it just white Christian. So, you know, when I look at those kids, you know, adults now, and their perspectives, you'd think that ours would be right on point. Mine are so far from theirs, it's insane. Like, I mean, we have nothing in common anymore. And they're sitting here challenging me daily, saying, how do you believe that? And I'm like, have you followed the logic on what you're saying? And it makes no sense to me. But then I have to look at something. I've visited like a quarter of the countries in the world. I've traveled all over. I've lived in different places. And I listen to people. And so I get frustrated with these people, but how much time am I going to invest in them in educating or sharing or offering new contrast points or new perspective? How much am I willing to give them to bring, I shouldn't say bring them up to speed, but to give them a new perspective? Like, I can sit here and criticize them. I can sit there and say, I see your point. I can offer one seed planted. This is where it gets difficult, because like you said, do you want to sit here and go back to New York on your time with your friends and enjoy a glass of wine? or do you want to argue with them all day long?
I want to enjoy their company and let them be them.
Yes.
But then on top of that, I'm enormously influenced by a professor named Daniel Kahneman. He wrote a bestseller called Thinking Fast and Slow, and he won a Nobel Prize for creating the field of behavioral economics. And I got to meet him, spent some time with him even, and what I walked away with was the following notion. Your chance of influencing somebody to change their opinion on something involved with their identity through logic or words or arguments is effectively zero. Because whatever they believe, they'll be so their identity is going to be defended so that they're just really not going to hear you.
It's their foundation. And we talk about this all the time.
Thank you.
You have three things that you build in your existence. You build your identity, your mission, your vision. And your mission is your core beliefs and everything that's about you. And your vision is, how you're going to achieve these beliefs, whatever. And your identity is the foundation, the soliditude, or if that's a word, of everything that you're based on. So for you to pull a chunk out of somebody's foundation, no one's just going to allow that. Yeah. Now, I will say this. One of the things, we talk about superpowers. One of my superpowers, if and when I choose, is I'm pretty good at getting to a point where someone might let me remove a piece of that. But you've got to pick and choose those battles, and it's draining. So I will come in and I'll ask a lot of questions and show the similarities and say, hey, listen, we're on the same page. I appreciate you. I love you. I get you. I see. How does that serve you in keeping your building upright? And I'll have that conversation. And I've had people shift, but it's 1 in a million on Facebook. And honestly, I sent something to Chris earlier today. Somebody sent something out, and they were, what was it about John Lewis? Somebody said like Barack Obama.
That was Obama saying that cops are racist. And
yeah, it was like, why is Obama saying all this stuff at Lewis's funeral? And my comment was very simple, saying he's literally echoing the essay that he wrote upon his death and saying the things that he wanted to achieve during his life. So that's any good eulogy. It just happens to be political because that's who the person was.
Right. And
the guy's like coming up going, he's an idiot, he's a racist, or he's this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, are we that far past this that we can't see what just happened? This is a man honoring another man's life by echoing what he would want to be heard in his legacy, done beautifully. And that's all it was. That's
what I replied to. That's what I replied
to. And you knew that I did not want to interact on that. I wanted to shut my mouth, but I'm like, I can't continue to shut my mouth. So I just kept it very like boring and simple. And the guy didn't.
I saw that.
He didn't bend. You knew I took a lot of deep breaths and rewrote that 12 times.
Yeah, you were very eloquent in your writing. I saw that. I'm like,
I chose my words wisely. Yeah, rewind.
More about that position that you have in your mind.
I know.
Like, Scott is going metaphysical on his ass, and I go in there. I'm like, blah 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 blah. We're all entitled to our opinions. But hell yeah, if I died tomorrow and Scott was eulogizing me, I'm like, yes, he wanted you to go do this. He wanted you to continue doing this. He wanted, it's a political arena, so of course he's going to say, for all the things that he wants to advocate for that. But yeah, I digress.
Yeah. So Mitzi, again, let's think of a couple like really simple things we can do, because going right after anything political is really difficult. So how
about don't, because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
We have to work in some kind of other realm.
Tell me about that. I love the fact that you're saying another realm. So how do we bring more love in these people's lives so that I don't want to say soften them up, but and I don't want to say one group's right or wrong either. How do we soften our hearts up to step outside of the ego enough to melt into one another into a more beautiful way where love is the solution and not fear? I need a drink after that question.
Well, all right. In my own life, I don't do confrontations just because I don't think it works.
Never heard that before.
Sorry.
What did I just say?
No, I was laughing. I said I need a drink after that question. Chris goes, I've never heard that before.
After an answer, I'm like, I need
the question was so stressful.
Then after that question, I'm like, okay. Sorry.
But what about starting with confrontation doesn't work? It just, I mean, to me, it's almost like physics. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So pushing somebody, or there's a phrase. I'm involved in a charity, and it's an anti-human trafficking charity. And one of the phrases that we have is that an idea imposed is an idea opposed. So we work very hard to persuade people, not by saying it's this way, but persuasion.
You know what is insanely beautiful about what you just said? Everyone, like, you know, when a certain question comes up all the time, people say, what would you do to change the world? And my answer always starts with education, and it always goes to something very simple. It goes to education, and I always say we need more collaboration and less competition. And that literally is exactly what you're talking about, because when we're taught as kids and we're in the sandbox, who can build the biggest castle? Who's the kicks the ball the furthest in kickball? Who's the coolest kid? Who, whatever. It's like, it's always this challenge. Like, what if we just said, let's build the sandbox, you know, the castle together? That never works out that way. It starts that way, and then it's two kids watching and like, look at how big I built this thing.
Yeah.
And so what if we had somebody who really conceptualized collaboration early on? And to the point is, this is where our healing starts, is collaboration. Like right now, like, listen, there's something that you know that I have no clue about. And that's why, like, when I'm talking to you, when you were telling me about your dad and your ex-husband, your late husband. Like, I'm sorry. I'm horrible at terms. I'm not smart. So your late husband. So when I'm listening to the things that you were sharing with me were so mesmerizing that I'm like, I'm cataloging it. And then I know you're totally willing to listen to something about meditation or an idea. I love that collaboration where I'm like, how do we grow and learn from one another? And there's no resistance. What do we do to take this self of these three individuals, extend it to the listeners, extend it to all these groups, so that we're just open-minded and excited to grow together? And I want to see that collaboration in two places. I want to see it start now in adults and be embedded into our youth in school. I can't read these things. What do they say?
Work together, come.
Well, Pam said, that's the funny one. She goes, Mitzi, your insights are still coming through despite the boys goofing off.
Thank you, Pamela.
Yeah, but you got to goof off. And then Glenda says, work together, come together right now. I'm not even going to,
We started the whole thing. We told her, we said, get a glass of wine. You know, we're all working hard. We deserve this. And
we're trying to keep it clean, but we just can't.
Doing our best.
I don't ever try to keep it. Well, actually, I mean, yeah.
You're doing good. Anyway, you're doing really good.
Well, we like to pretend anyway.
So to round out the conversation, we've been going for an hour and 17 minutes. I mean, this has been an amazing conversation. I'm having
so much fun. I can't believe it. I mean, we've gotten into some really deep, nitty-gritty, important things, and we haven't quite rescued the universe yet. But I think we've made an almighty good try.
So that's actually a great question, or a great jumping off point, Mitzi. I mean, obviously, what Scott and I have been doing together in our shows and everything else since COVID started is trying to bring people together and trying to realize, try to advocate for everybody's strength. Like when we started in COVID, I said, this is a great time for you guys to show yourself how strong you are. And some people have gotten stronger and some people have gotten a lot weaker. People are struggling. I mean, it continues to go on. The uncertainty continues to go on. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, is going to continue to go on. What do you say to people right now that are watching, that are struggling, just to keep a grasp of reality, like that things are positive? Like for me, I sit there and I think about, and Scott and I have had these conversations, like sometimes I just go off and I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I'm like, but then I go back to, it's all about love. It's going to work out. It's going to be fine. Whatever happens is going to happen. It's going to be fine. We're going to get through it. And actually, and I went back to this again. Somebody told me like the representation on Facebook and the news is not what's happening in the real world. And we said this.
No, it's not.
So what do you say to people right now who are watching? Like they're hanging on to hope. They're hanging on to, the unemployment just ran out. They're trying to figure things out. How do you send them off with some sort of inspirational message that like gives them like, okay, yes, I can do this. Go. That's a tall question, but
I do have an answer. I believe that the story we are the stories we tell ourselves. And the story that I would like for all of us to have is we can do it. It's tough, but what doesn't kill me makes me stronger.
Oh.
And
show the tattoo, Chris.
Oh.
He has his tattoo on his arm. He loves to show this.
Oh.
What doesn't kill me makes me stronger.
good Lord. Good Lord.
Right there.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
I got it before Kelly Clarkson, so let's just end.
I mean,
that.
that's what a coincidence that, I mean, because I really
I have
believe
to have that there.
that there's so many bad things that happen to us. And do we let them defeat us, or do we, I mean, I'll tell you when something horrible happens to me. I often tell myself I'm paying my dues. Nobody gets through this life unhurt, undamaged, unharmed.
Bravo.
And what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. So painful and horrible as it is, I try to learn everything that I can from whatever awful thing it is. And I also, deep inside, I have this little voice that says, I'm not going to be defeated. I'm going to prevail.
It's awesome.
And then on top of that, I want to tell, I've mentioned my sister before, who's a profoundly spiritual woman. And I admire her to the outer limits. But sometimes people ask you, who do you admire most in the world? In my case, it's my sister. And it's for the following reason. It's something that I saw her do. Somewhere around 35 years ago, she was diagnosed with probably fatal ovarian cancer. She had a tumor that was the size of like a cantaloupe. And by the time it gets that big, her doctor told me her chances were 1 in 1,000. And that's a death sentence. Well, I talked with her just before she was operated on. I mean, just before they put the mask over her head or over her nose to anesthetize her. And she told me, I'm asking her, are you scared? What, just kind of, what's going on in your head? And she told me, if I die, I had a better life than I ever bargained for. And if I live, even better. So I can't lose. And I'm thinking, that's not quite the end of the story though. But what an ego-free approach that is. I can't lose even though I might die. Well, so she woke up and she told me, tubes coming out of everywhere. And she said, when she regained consciousness, there was a nurse bending over her. And my sister told me, I looked at the nurse and I winked. And I said, Augusta, why did you wink at a nurse when you don't know the end result? You don't know if you're going to live or die. You don't know what they found. And you wink at the nurse? And she said, yeah, I did, because I knew she'd be worried about me and I could reassure her.
Oh.
Now, can you have
beautiful,
a less egocentric approach to the world than to be concerned that the nurse hovering over you might be worried about you, but you can't speak because there are tubes coming out of everywhere?
I would be the same way. Yep. I'd be like, I want to make
I
sure
literally did that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to be that way, but she did it.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
You would be that way.
Your story.
Yeah. You would be the same way. I fell through a glass table and I literally, my heart stopped and they literally like pumped. I think it was something like,
tell a testicle story.
When the glass fell through went through there. Is that where you want the story?
Yeah, sure.
I fell through a glass table, an 8-inch piece of glass right up in under, like just missed my extremely important parts, cut my femoral artery, my urethra. And here's the deal. I have a 13-year-old daughter, so we're good there. But but yeah, the first thing I did was I woke up like in all that, I was making jokes and I was laughing and I'm like, hey, if this doesn't work, if my stuff's not going to work and you botch the surgery, I'll be good with that. Like, I was like, let me go if things aren't going to continue to work out for my man parts. But yeah, long story short, it all worked. And I was laughing the whole way through. And one of the nurses went to nursing school with my mom, who's a nurse. And she's like, I've never seen someone come into the emergency room just laughing, like while dying, like your son. Like he was just laughing and saying everything's good. And I literally like in that whole process where like I went to black and like everything's like, I'm not here. I literally was thinking I'm completely okay if I leave, because I'm like, wow, I've had a really good life. Like it's been really good. And so just like your sister, I was like, if I have more, that's really good too, but it's already been really good. So I'm good. And I was completely cool with that.
Okay, so there are now two people in the world that I admire to the outer limits.
Me and your sister, I want to hang out with her. I might be a little more ridiculous than her.
I doubt it.
Maybe not. That's
No,
awesome.
she's cool.
That's awesome. And she's got more wisdom.
Augusta,
She's got
right?
a few more years.
That's your sister?
Augusta is my sister.
Yeah.
82. Or she might be 83 now. Yeah, she's 83 now.
Wow. Well, honestly, on behalf of myself, Scott, everybody in the chat, thank you guys so much for being here. What a phenomenal conversation. I mean, we could literally keep going, but I know we all have stuff that we got to do, and I have to go pee just to be completely
okay. But my opinion of it is we're going to put Joe Rogan out of business because we're better.
I love it.
Yes, no, I mean, you know, it's not even about that. It's about just impacting people. I mean, there's 9 people on right now. And if one person walks away from this that says, hey, wow, I feel inspired. I feel like I'm normal. I feel like I'm okay. I mean, we saw some great comments in here that talking about like we're all more the same than we are different. You know, that's what I love about what you bring to the conversation, Mitzi, and that we free falled into this, because in my expectation, I thought we were going to talk more about mindset and different things, but you know, it's just the beauty of the fact that we're all brought together at the same time to figure these things out. And I totally see that. And I totally believe that, especially with the books that I read with The Untethered Soul and The Surrender Experiment and Why Me, Why This, Why Now. Those books have been phenomenal for the introspective like journey of trying to figure all this stuff out and realizing that when you let go of all that stuff, you free fall, and then you're here with these people. I mean, if you would have told me 6 months ago I was going to be sitting here doing these lives and this stuff like that, I would have been okay. But you know, you just free fall into it and you figure it out and you go with it. And that's one thing that I really want to tell all you guys out there.
Oh, we lost Chris for a moment. He usually comes back. just in case he doesn't come back, we'll start back in. So I know he
people are struggling. Like, I will be back. I'm always back. I'm always back. I actually think it's my computer. I don't think it's my internet anymore. I think it's my computer doing some bullshit process behind it. OneDrive's updating and it goes, eh. But anyways, so what was I saying? Scott, help me.
Damn this. Excuse me, I'm a lady. You didn't hear that. Darn, this has been fun.
That's what you were saying. You were saying,
hey, so Mitzi, where can people, I mean, the most important thing really out of this, because you've impacted a lot of people in our group and a lot of people watch this on replay, where can they connect with you the best way?
Go to @mitzi.com. And there's a contact sheet there at the end of it. So @Mitzi, like uncle, @Mitzi, and Mitzi is MITZI. So @Mitzi.com. And if you want to contact me, I promise you I'll answer you, but go to the contact section and write to me.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to speak on behalf of Scott, but will you come back as a guest with us? And
I'd like nothing more.
I think that you, in addition to, like Scott was saying, we could actually put more people in. We've never put more than 4, but it would be great to have Pam and Patricia in this conversation as well.
Oh, yes.
They're both brilliant, enlightened people. I mean,
yes.
Pam.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So I think that would be phenomenal it would be dynamic to see that conversation. But I think that based on the fact that in the chat, what they were providing, I mean, it would really just combine that magic of what it is that we're talking about. So would you be up for that?
In a heartbeat.
Awesome. You rock.
Thank you.
Final words, final thoughts before I take us out.
Love you guys.
That's what's in my heart right now. Love you guys.
Hey, Mitzi, don't go anywhere. I'm going to put you backstage, and then we're going to have another drink or something like that before.
I'm up for it.
All right. Hang on one second. Thank you, guys. I love you guys. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Friday Night Live. Here we are, July 31st, I think it is, something like that. So, wow, what a conversation. What a deep dive into who it is that we are and why it is that we do the things that we do. And I think that's like an overgeneralization of what it is. But, you know, if you're watching this on the replay, again, like I said at the beginning, take notes, go do stuff. You know, it's one thing to sit there and listen to it and go, oh, it's so cool. And that's such a great idea. But just take one thing. Just take one thing from what we said tonight and go implement it, and implement it to your best. And your best isn't just like, your best is blood, sweat, and tears. Your best is going to sleep at night, feeling exhausted and feeling like, hey, I really chipped away at something that I'm really passionate about. And I've had more people in the last couple of weeks reach out to me about, how to do what they want to do and be who they want to be. That just starts with taking action. That just starts with putting one foot in front of the other. That just starts with really free falling into whatever it is that's going to be and trusting that it's all going to work out. Like I said, in the middle of this show, there's a lot going on. And I know that a lot of people are hurting and struggling and trying to figure out what's right and what's going to be next and all this other stuff. But I have a firm belief that it's all going to work out perfectly. And I have a firm belief that the humanity of the world is going to combine and not be destroyed by whatever is happening behind the scenes. And I'm not going to get into that stuff, but we are all beautiful people. And if you ask somebody who you disagree with somebody, just try to get to the root cause of what it is, because I can guarantee you that you're both fighting for the same thing. The left is fighting for the right. Everybody's fighting for the right thing and the same thing, just in different ways. So when you seek first to understand and then to be understood, that's where really the magic happens. And so we thank you from the bottom of our heart for being here and sharing this out and participating. You guys are all rock stars. Pam, Patricia, Glenda. Thank you so much, Glenda. You have been so amazing. Thomas, Sean, what's up, brother? Sean. If you guys haven't seen our Friday Night Live with Sean, go back and check that out. That was freaking amazing. Chad, what's up, brother? Chad says, hey, good evening. What's up? Aunt Mitzi, good evening. You guys are all phenomenal. We can't thank you enough. Seriously, Joe Ingram, he was here. Joe Ingram's awesome. He's a baller. Shane Schultz was here. Hey, hello, Shane from Speaking of the Heart Network. So again, truly, I know Scott believes us. Thank you guys so much for everything. And we love you. Have a great weekend. Go out there and really just make a difference in the world. Be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. And we love you. Truly, we do.